go in will start to Mr. Shahroom is also ready.
Will he come later or?
Yeah, we'll jump.
Eat first.
panelists, may I have your attention? We're going to start right now. We're going to begin right now. So good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you to this forum discussion. Before we proceed, let me introduce myself. I am Shamira Nasrin, and I'll be moderating for today's forum. So first of all, I would like to give a brief introduction on what is Hall of Aspire, the title of the forum that we are in today. The Hall of Aspire is a forum platform organized by Altruistic Malaysia, which is essential in the process giving all people access to knowledge and information. So this platform needed more than ever in these digital days. Most importantly, Hall of Aspire is the place where you can find critical topics or causes that need to be discussed. So nowadays, the topic are varied by the action that's going to be taken in specific prospects like peace, education, environment, health, humanitarian, and also economy. So today, we will discuss climate change impacts on agriculture, forestry, and coastal areas. So a little bit of definition on what is climate change. So climate change is a long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns in place. And the cause of it is largely formed by human activities like burning fossil fuels, natural gases, oil, and also coal. So to discuss more on this topic, I have three panelists with me over here. So the first panelist we have is Mr. Ahmad Shahroom, owner of Sabah Green Sanctuary. And then the second panelist we have is project manager of Alunan Corridor project, Ms. Aimi. And the last but not the least, we have Mr. Shaq Koyok, Temuan artist and also activist. So without further ado, I would like to jump into our discussion session. So the first question that I would like to throw is towards Mr. Ahmad Shahroom. So agriculture. So agriculture is a major source of GSTs, which contributing to the greenhouse effect and also climate change by the conversion of non-agricultural land, such as forests or any agricultural land. So however, global food security relies on both sufficient food production and also food access. So how you're going to make sure that Sabah Green Sanctuary is going to maintain the food production and lessen the impact on climate change?
Okay. First of all, a very good evening to everyone. That is actually a very good question, how to balance out between opening a new project site for agriculture without actually, harming the environment or increasing the greenhouse effect. What we do is we try not to open a new project area instead we incorporate urban farming project, which is much more efficient if we consider transportation and logistics. Because you try to imagine if we have our own farm in our own city, a big city, without having to transport goods from outside of the city area, that will be much more efficient. So that is number one that we do. And the number two that we do is we try to implement, or we try to instill awareness on the benefit of having your own mini farm in your own house, so you can actually produce yourself. Nowadays, the knowledge is everywhere. It's just you just type in how to, then you can get all on farming knowledge. So for me, that is what we're trying to do. Okay, thank you.
That's really nice, Mr. Ahmad. I think next we're going to go to the prospect of forestry. So I would like to throw this question to Mr. Shah. So my question will be, the forests are one of the most important solutions to addressing the effects of climate change. Approximately, we have 2.6 billion tons of carbon dioxide. So 1/3 of the carbon dioxide releases from the fossil fuels is absorbed by forests every year. So how are we gonna increase or maintain the forest that we have right now to be an essential solution to climate change?
I think so, one of the other thing we can add to increasing the amount of forest by reforestation projects. For example, there's so many area that we could reforested with a native plant, for example. And as another thing that we need reduce. Basically, we need just stop deforestation as soon as possible, because actually that's the answer to reduce the carbon footprint that we release to our atmosphere. But that's not the case in Malaysia. In some of them, deforestation is still going on, and even though there's so much backlash between the community live nearby, and also among activists, and we need to think about what they did now that will affect our future. Because how we gonna create a better future for our future children? Because if we're looking at our situation where Malaysia already lost about 0.43% per year of our forests, then we need to think about, we need to try to slow down that, basically try to stop. And I know there's some state in Malaysia still using forests as an income, logging as an income by selling it out. But you could just think something else like urban forests, like agriculture, like renewable energy, for example. And then there's so many ways to generate income, not just cutting the forest to sell it to everywhere. And that's not really sustainable. Not just will increase the carbon footprint. That also will release all the carbon that been stored in our rainforest, and that also, forest is a place for wildlife. It's a habitat for the wildlife as well, and the wildlife will disappear, will die the same time when they cut the tree. They will just almost kill the wildlife. That's actually a sin, right? That's actually the worst thing you can think of. And also the bigger wildlife, for example, elephant, will go to the community village where they live nearby, and they will destroy the agriculture area where the indigenous people live. They also will destroy the other agriculture area that people agriculture nearby to the forest also. And also will create a natural disaster. This is not just release carbon footprint, but actually will create a natural disaster. So they need to think twice.
Makes sense, definitely makes sense. So we'll move to Miss Aimi over here, the project director of Alunan Coral project. So I think this will be a good question for you, I guess. So how does actually climate change affecting on coastal areas? And how much does climate change actually cause those coastal areas in Malaysia? Can it be quantified? Is it possible to be quantified?
Thanks, Mira. So if I can just share a little bit how climate change and ocean is related. So in the past century, humans have been getting more powerful, not just by growing our energy supply, but also by using it with more efficiency and inventiveness. But in doing so, we have been increasingly affecting our world, both from accident as well as design. However, the restorative power of the planet remains the same. So the balance between human power and the planet has been shifting. And this is what is changing the climate. And the climate regulator, the ocean, which covers 70% of the Earth, has been heavily impacted. And by absorbing the surrounding carbon dioxide, the ocean keeps the planet cooler, because that is essentially the properties of water, which is, keeping things cooler. So just imagine how a room that has 20 people will be significantly warmer than the same room with only 2 people. Because as we breathe, we produce carbon dioxide, which has a property of trapping heat. And thanks to the ocean, nearly half of the carbon dioxide released from various human activities, especially industries that involve the burning of fossil fuels, is absorbed. And without the ocean, our world actually can be twice as hot as it already is. And sadly, carbon dioxide emission has increased so much that the ocean has become so much warmer than it used to, and its acidity is increased. If I can continue a little bit, like other liquids, the ocean expands as it warms, hence it increased the sea level. And this will affect actually many coastal countries. More than half of the world's population that live near the coast will suffer, especially countries that has limited financial resources to adapt. And with increased temperature, there will definitely be an increase in the rate of evaporation, which will lead to a more intense rain and storm. And for countries experiencing seasonal monsoon season like Malaysia, it's going to get more wet than it already is. It may sound great as it will bring more water to the Southeast Asia area, more cool kan, lagi sejuk. But the rain is likely going to fall in even more intense bursts, which could mean severe flooding and storm and coastal erosions. The Peninsula Malaysia is about 4,000 kilometer stretch, and the erosion from intense monsoon in Malaysia has caused the loss of some businesses and houses near the beach by already 15%, which is equal to about 555 kilometer stretch. And in 2018 alone, 90 million ringgit has to be allocated to commence the coastal erosion project in Kuala Nerus, which was covering an area of only about 50 kilometers. So it's not only damaging the landscape, but also forcing an increase of the financial support to the project, not to mention the disruption of the economy of people who are dependent to nature for livelihood, like tourism and fishing.
So, Ms. Aimi, as we were talking about the rising level of the sea level, right? So I have another question relating to it. So the planning of horizons for coastal adaptation, particularly which is relating to sea level rise. So can you please help me to understand better on this? Because the actual reason behind this planning, maybe the policy decisions being set up to the planting of coral, and how does it could help the ecosystem and impact from the climate change?
Wow. Okay. All right. So coral restoration is increasingly known worldwide. And to decide whether or not a restoration is needed and which method to use will mostly depend on available resources and if there is any recorded habitat degradation. And in most cases, community managers will find certain techniques and materials that are more efficient to them, which is why you will see there's various methods of restoration around the globe. And adaptation of that particular technique is essential for local success in the restoration effort. Mistakes are bound to happen, but they should not be repeated. This is why a proper recording is crucial to identify the efficiency of the restoration. I'm highlighting recording because though it may seem easier and less laborious to do just an eyeball survey, senang kan, tak payah record whatever, it will not help much in the long term. which is something that each restoration project usually looks into. Coral restoration, the idea is actually to help damaged reef to damage or degraded reef to increase the overall reef health in the area, the abundance as well as the diversity. And as coral cover increase, it helps to protect juvenile fish, as well as fish eggs from predation from the various shapes of coral. Like behind me here, I have a lot of branching corals, so it mostly protect the smaller fish species. So without these corals, predatory fish will not be able to feed, as their prey usually comes to coral reef area to eat. And of course, coral reef actually helps to protect the shore. They absorb the energy from incoming waves and slowing them down because of the various structure that they have. And this process, while absorbing the wave action, sometimes coral breaks. But eventually, the wave that comes to the shore will be much more reduced. So in Malaysia, there are 42 marine protected area called the marine parks. So Pulau Perhentian, Redang, Kapas, and some few other islands in the west coast of Malaysia is protected under this area, where moving anything underwater is against the rules, and fishing is not allowed within 2 nautical miles from the island. So for a restoration project, like Alunan Coral Project, we have been granted permission to do restoration work, and we also send our report to the authority regularly to ensure that we are going in the right direction.
It is interesting how these beautiful creatures, they are not just beautiful, but they could do so much more to our earth, right? So, Mr. Shah, I have a question. Do you think the forest industry indirectly contributing to the climate change?
Yes, I think, like I said earlier, because our forests, we have a different type of forest. When we have forest in it's called I forgot the name of forest, but another forest is called peat forest, and then peat forest has also, they play a really important role absorbing all of our carbon, and they restore it to the, not just to the tree, but restore it to the soil. And that's also happened in mangrove forest as well. And by cutting them, by deforested, by flattening the area, they will the so much carbon that's stored in there will release, and then that will create so much contribute to the climate change, to the global warming and so on. And of course, in talking about global warming, then they will affect other areas as well, like a coral. It will bleach the coral as well, and then they increase the temperature around us, and the increase of temperature will create so much natural disaster, and that will, that's why we can see so much flood going on everywhere around the world. It's not just in Malaysia, in Germany, and in everywhere, because our temperature is increased. So now our temperature increase, there's more condensation that will create so much. Again, like I said, the restoration, the reforestation is key in this situation. We need to do it now. We need to start it as soon as possible. I think there's no way for us to stop. We need to try to educate our young children also, and that will benefit them, because what we do here now is we will need to maintain that forest where we are, and at the same time we need to restore that forest that we gone, and so by replanting it.
I agree, Mr. Chak. I think it starts from the education itself. When you were saying, the kids, right? So it starts from the education. If we got to give this awareness in schools, in the education sectors, probably we could have more responsible citizens towards all this, right? So, Mr. Shahroom, I have a question for you. It's your turn. So, can climate change add a level of complexity to figuring out how to maintain a sustainable agriculture in future?
Yeah, as one of our panelists said earlier, the harsh weather. When we talk about harsh weather, right? The raining is crazy, okay, and flood. So commercial farming that plant on land, on normal soil, they will have any issue with flood. Okay, so when this flood season came, all those vegetables, all those plants will just, there's no production. So this is where the technology came in. Okay, this is quite climate change indirectly force farmers to go towards IR 4.0. What our ministry tried to promote to us. IR 4.0 actually helps, but the thing is IR 4.0 require a lot of funds. So to develop a technology on agriculture is quite tedious. Okay, so when there's the fluctuation in temperature occurs, you will have sometimes high temperature, sometimes low temperature, and then you will have a fluctuation in the humidity. This will affect the growth. Okay, usually what we do is when it's hot season, we tend to use less fertilizers on urban farming, which is easy for us to monitor because of all those on those equipments. But if for commercial farming, where you don't have any proper equipment on measuring the proper fertilizer, usually the commercial farmers usually just put like based on their experience, means okay, 1 gram, 2 gram. Okay, there's no actually a proper test on whether this plant have acquire a proper amount of fertilizer or not. But when you go to urban farming, there's a thing called precision farming, so you can actually check everything. So with this climate change happening, it's high time for farmers to go towards urban farming or to precision farming in Malaysia.
It's simply very interesting how complex an industry could contribute to climate change. So next I have, right? Yeah. So Ms. Aimi, I have a question for you. So how resilient are coastal habitats to sea level rise? How resilient are they?
So if I'm answering from my position, I would say we are unsure of it. So corals are animal. Even though they do look like rocks or like underwater plants, they are actually animal. So like other animal, like our pets, they can adapt to changes, but if given enough time. So corals, they also have this memory called ecological memory. So it's a situation where let's say there is something happened in the past 2 weeks. They will remember whatever that happened during that time, and then they will build their resilience based on that. So in the idea is actually to just build enough resistance in the case of there is similar damage or threats that comes their way. Right. So what we are trying to do with Alunan Core Project on our scale is that now that we are reaching our 3rd year, our corals are mostly have starting to mature. We will try to move them slightly inshore where they will get warmer water, much more sunlight, in the hope that they will be more resilient. And we are trying to plant various coral species because different coral will have different adaptations, like plants and other animals as well. So hopefully by the end of it, we will be able to identify which coral is more resilient or more adaptive towards environmental changes. And then I think what climate change is really threatening right now that is very hard to control is also increase in acidity. Like we've talked, I've said earlier how the oceans are capable of absorbing and neutralizing the carbon dioxide, but at today's rate, they are arriving too fast in the water. That the chemical reaction with between water and the excess carbon dioxide has caused the increase in the water acidity. So to explain this better, corals they requires carbonate in ion state. So like macam molecule kan yang ada charges still. So in high acidity water, this carbonate ion, it tends to get stolen away. So for many animals, corals, crabs, clams, to make their shells or skeleton. So it's very hard for them because this carbonate ion that they need to build their skeleton is stolen away, right? And in the extreme event, the already built shell will begin to dissolve due to increase of acidity. To make it easier, just try to imagine a chalk that get dissolved in water, just like that. Yeah.
Interesting. So, of course, corals are animals. They belong to the phylum of Cnidaria, right?
Cnidaria.
So, and then I was wondering, Miss Aimi, because for example, the animals in Mariana Trench is completely different because they are the evolution happens because they have to adapt right into that situation. So I'm pretty sure climate change has this kind of effect where the maybe the temperature of the water increases, or all this stuff, right? So it could actually affect these creatures that we have in aquatic creatures that we have. So is there any changes in this coral reef? Like, have you been observed all this before?
Changes, I don't think we have seen that very much of a significant difference, but I'm sure if we look at the graph over the years, there will definitely be changes in especially in terms of coral cover. But hopefully, with more resilient corals, we will have a stronger coral reef area that is able to adapt to changes in the environment.
Thank you, Miss Aimi. So next, I would like to ask Mr. Shahroom. So the competitive balance between plants and also pests have been relatively stable for the past century, but the rapidly shifting climate, because of it, so is there any chances of the change in this balance, which often favors the more biological diverse weeds or the monocrops most farm consist of?
Yeah, usually for agriculture, the monocrops have quite a big disadvantage, because it's just a single crops, right?
Yeah.
And then if you go to that's why people are going towards urban farming, because when you go towards urban farming, everything is covered. So you will use less pesticide, so you won't have too much of pest issue, insect attack. Climate change will shift the balance for sure, but if you change the system as a whole, this climate change, the effect from climate change actually can be reduced. But then there's a big investment need to be done, because to shift from commercial farming to farming with quite a high technology farming, so it needs a lot of funds. That is the problem in Malaysia, actually, to shift from commercial to urban farming. Your mic.
Interesting. Interesting, Mr. Ahmad. So can we have Mr. Shaxton now to answer the question? So we have, forests are the main source of the earth, which actually supports and also protects the biosphere. So how does climate change actually affect this natural forest ecosystem, and how can we predict these impacts and mitigate those impacts?
I think it's quite hard to predict the impact, but as far as we can see now, the climate change already caused so much drought in many areas, and so you can see so much area, for example, near Syria, they lost so much of their water, and without water, there's no plant to grow. It's the same thing, and that will create so much, ecological, biological, and so on disaster around the area, and that will affect the human life as well. And that's a warning. That's a warning point for us to look it up, and we should be lucky that we have the forest now, but that doesn't say that we keep chop down the forest. Like I said, we need to stop the deforestation, because to balance our ecosystem in our country. That's at the same time we can use our success story by influence others to do the same thing. And we are lucky because we live in a very where our country is situated just not far from equator. It's very fully biodiversity, and a lot of people around the world got really jealous with us because we get this biodiversity, and we should use that as a selling point, as a promotion point for others to do the same. And by showing the good example, by doing the reforestation, and by stopping the deforestation, by and that of course not everybody, any country can do by switching the so-called logging as a income to different industry, but we can do that by slowly switching to the new industry, and that takes a lot of cooperation among many sectors in the country, but the more important thing for everybody to know that because what we do now, it will affect the future. Like if you don't do it now, how our future children are gonna live, or where they're gonna live with warmer condition, they're gonna live in a very harsh condition, they're gonna live in a very dangerous environment. So we need to think about our future. You're mute.
So Mr. Shah, so in conjunction to that, can you hear me? Okay, cool. So in conjunction to that, so how does climate major problems it's been one of the factors or to be a problem for us to implement in Malaysia, the awareness of it?
The awareness, I think the awareness now needs to start from really young age of children in the country, and we need to start it not just in the school but also from the parent also. So everybody need to teach our children that plant a tree, they will absorb the carbon dioxide and they will release the oxygen. Without a plant, we don't have oxygen. Without the ocean, we don't have oxygen. It's the same thing. Without the agriculture, we don't have food. Without the biodiversity, we don't have proper food to eat. And that mindset should be planted to really young age. You need to plant from the seed, from the root. And so we need to get that understanding toward the society.
Great. So that's a brilliant answer, of course. Mr. Ahmad, can we ask? I have a question on the prospect of agriculture. So, despite the technology advances, such improved varieties or genetically modified organisms, which is really in high demand nowadays, and also irrigation systems, climate is still a key factor that in agriculture productivity, as well as soil properties and also temperature. So there is a report and statistic over here, the IPCC Third Assessment Report, published in 2001, concluded that the poorest country will be the hardest hit, with reduction in crops yield in most tropical and subtropical regions. So due to decreased water availability, and new or change in insect pest incident. So there is countries like Africa and also Latin America, many rain crops are near their maximum temperature tolerance, so that their yields are likely to fall sharply to even smaller of climate change. So that means even the smaller climate change could actually affect their crops. So, so I would like to ask you, how does climate change can affect on productivity? So, in the prospect of quality, quantity, agriculture practices, and also adaptation in the wise of agriculture.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, the temperature is ridiculously high now. Okay, it's not like the normal temperature that we used to have, especially in Africa. Even us as a tropical country, we these changes is really, we can experience it. We can feel it. Okay, if we as a human can feel it, for sure the plant can feel it too, right? So that's why we need to do something. But for us to change the climate is almost impossible, because there's a long-term mistake from the human self. So what we can do is we provide an alternative, right? Like if you have high temperature, or if you have too much humidity, then you need to provide the plant with a proper parameter, so that it can grow very well. Then the solution for that is you go towards smart farming. That's why a lot of people are promoting smart farming. That's why if you go to the country, small country, they're farming on top of the building. Okay, and then what I want to share with you guys is that nowadays we are looking into indoor farming, which is we are planting using light. Okay, so when you plant indoor, everything is in control. Temperature, humidity, your pH level, your fertilizer level, the light required by the plant, everything can be controlled. But the downside of this is it costs a lot. But there will be a time that we need to choose whether we want to keep on fail planting, or we invest a lot of money just to secure our food, which is now during the pandemic, we can see the food security is a big issue, right? When you cannot import or export is out, so we need to solely rely on local production. Then we can see this. And like Mr. Shaq said, how to increase the amount of youngsters to be interested in agriculture is from the very beginning. From very small, parents need to bring them to the nursery. This is the vegetable, this is the plant. We need to plant this vegetable, so the vegetable will produce oxygen. Then everybody can breathe, and it is a source of food for us. And then nowadays people are health conscious, so they want vegetables that are no pesticide, organic. So this, in order to achieve non-pesticide organic plant, it can only be achieved health using conscious. So they want vegetables that are no pesticide, organic.
So, Ahmad, as you were saying, getting the youngsters into agriculture, right? So I think there is a perception over here where, only farmers want this job, and then where graduates are, they have much prospects, right? Like I myself from a university that we actually have a particular course. We actually have a faculty, dedicating to agriculture itself. So how are we going to cater these graduates into this agriculture? Because as in my opinion, agriculture is the future of any country that has agriculture, right? True. So what's your opinion on it?
Actually, the youngsters themselves nowadays they start to realize that this agriculture is actually making money. And when you use a proper equipment that reduce labor costs, this is what we as millennials like. less work, more rewards, right? But it needs a proper investment. So what a university can do is they can design a plan, okay, design a course that by the time they graduate from the course, they have option whether they want to work or they want to work or they want to open their own farm, because some of us have land, some of us don't have land. Okay, so for people that have land, they can bring their friend to join together as a team to develop the land and monitored by the university, because any program that monitored by university have high chances to be funded by the government. So this is what we are trying to promote.
So I really hope, someday we could actually cater this, because we need more graduates
Yes, true.
venturing into all these fields, right? So I mean, there is a lot of science and technology behind it, because there is a lot of science and technology behind it, because we are endorsing genetically modified plants, because we have how do I say, the plants or the food access, right?
Yes,
like healthy prospects of it, like you were saying, less pesticide and all that stuff, obviously. So we need more graduates getting into this. So Miss Aimi, I have a question for you. How does climate change evident in Malaysia as it is concerning the coastal areas? You're unmute.
So, like I've mentioned before, the impact of the climate change can be seen already, especially towards coastal area where monsoon hits, and this is actually the impact of climate change. We don't look at it as just one single event, but we have to look at it as the whole entire event, for across a couple of years, because then only we will be able to see if there's any trends in the precipitation level, the wind level, temperature, and all this has to be looked over a couple of years. Yeah. And if I can share what climate change has done, not to Malaysia's coastal area, but in Australia. I think everyone is familiar with Great Barrier Reef. So in the last heat wave, Great Barrier Reef was hit so badly that 80% of their coral reefs is dead. So Great Barrier Reef is the only coral reef ecosystem or earth ecosystem that can be seen from space. So to have 80% of that ecosystem diminish is just devastating. And the recovery rates of these coral reefs
too costly to rectify. So I think I can have anyone going first. So Miss Aimi, maybe you can go first. Miss Aimi, I think you can go first.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was saying something. So yeah, I think it's very costly. But if we do it on individual level, everywhere, everybody do it. We definitely can get the bigger picture. And if every individual play their role, we can actually put the pressure on the bigger industry, which is mostly the most contributing industry towards global warming and also climate change. Yeah.
Mr. Shah, maybe you can answer the question now.
Yes, I agree. And then we need to put pressure on a big industry that contributing to the releasing carbon dioxide to our atmosphere. We know there's the biggest industry in this country that still are using coal, for example, as a one of the fossil fuel they use to generate the electricity, and that's actually I also found out there's a new coal plant just building now. that actually shown that there are some demand on the on the electricity in this country that will create more this industry to build more, and then that will consume more coal, that will release more carbon dioxide to to atmosphere. That actually doesn't have. I think that's another thing we need to do is try to educate everybody's about where energies come from, and that will make people think that the big company that they will for them is money making, but at the same time they will destroy the environment by not just polluting it, but also increase the carbon footprint, increase the temperature, and the will and that also actually is actually make us as a citizen. We need to be responsible. We need to think where our energy come from. So we need to think before after this. We need to think. Switch off any appliances you don't use, and it's another thing that we need to think about. Shopping mall, actually they use so much of energy to run on, so we actually got more shopping mall in Malaysia now. So that's actually make us think that why this shopping mall being built, and then this some of shopping mall even fail, but they still using so much electricity to put aircon in the shopping mall. That's actually not help.
What about Mr. Shahroom? Is it too costly to rectify it?
Yeah, because this climate change, it's not like we change something today, it happens, it changed tomorrow. This climate change is, 50, 100 years of changes that it become this bad. So yeah, I think it's too costly to rectify, but we can do some improvement by using renewable source of energy. Like for example, for electricity, we can implement a solar energy, because we are we are not a 4-season country, so we are like a tropical country. We have sunlight throughout the year. So utilizing solar as our primary source of electricity would be very beneficial. But then, when we talk about solar, it's costly. So the key point is here: who's willing, right? Because we even now, especially during this pandemic time, nobody have the money to spare. We are in trouble, basically. We are seriously in trouble. Seriously.
I have to agree. In conjunction to that, I would like to also ask, does climate change actually affect our farms, which in resulting affecting our food as well?
True. Very true. Especially when everyone not willing to shift from old school to the modern style. There's a reason why people shift, because even evolution happened, like one creature will try to evolve to adapt. So if we as a human, we think that we don't have to change, we are very mistaken. We need to change based on the climate now, because it's very harsh. Even last few months, the drought season in Sabah, it really affects. And now it's raining season, and the rain is ridiculous. It's storm. It's not even just like simple rain. A lot of places is flooded, and then flood takes days to recover, and your plant will surely die. So, yeah, we are in trouble.
I have to agree. So Mr. Shah, my next question is for you. So what are the major problems in implementing the precision of forestry for climate change approach in Malaysia?
I think I'm not sure how to answer that, because as activists, the best we can do by increase the awareness among the youth, especially about important of our biodiversity, and also the important of our forests, and also we try to monitor the best we can to make sure our forests not been destroyed, not to deforested, because for the sake of the of course profit for them, and also we try to keep pressure for our forestry department to make sure not to release any of a license, and also make sure they do proper EIA, proper consultation with the community, proper meeting about before they run any project nearby the forest area, because the forest area is a very sensitive area. Sometimes there is some regulation that say hutan simpan, but forest reserve actually falls to the state matters. Sometimes the federal cannot have, they don't have power to be involved, and that's actually become very problematic to protect the forest. And the last stand that we have is by doing blockade, but at the same time we need to show the awareness about our forests as well, and then we need to best we can to be a monitor for everybody. We need to be eye for anybody to together we can protect our forests, because if you're looking at a forestry kind of point of view, every state they have their own forestry. Even the law sometimes changes. They don't totally different to other states. That's make it difficult for us, for activists to be an eye to protect our forests. And we always rely to local community that live nearby to be our eye, and to be a person who everybody have for a smartphone now. Might as well make use that and record it and then try to report it to us. They try to show it everybody that's been going on around there, and that's a way for us to stop it before it's too late.
I think it takes more than an individual. It takes more than activists or an NGO or a movement to do this, because it takes legislation to be a part of the solution to this problem, right? So, okay. So I hopefully maybe the legislation part of the country could do something about it. So could actually do something about it in helping us in overcoming these issues, right? Because Malaysia is in number 13th of the most diverse country that we have in this, in the point of view of biodiversity. So I feel like climate change will be definitely a hard reality check on a country like Malaysia, because we have so much to sacrifice out there, right?
Exactly.
I have a question to Miss Aimi over here. So we have a question particularly from a Facebook viewer. His name is Daya Hussein, and he asked, is climate change also main factor of high sedimentation in ocean, especially in shallow water?
Can you read the question again?
Sure. So is climate change also the main factor of high sedimentation in ocean, especially in shallow water?
Yeah. So climate change combined with human activities is actually what increased the sedimentation around coastal area. Deforestation, development is definitely is contributing to that. When you remove something that holds, especially trees, corals, all the soil below or whatever that is deep buried will become loose, and this is actually what increase the sedimentation. Not to forget waste discharge around the area as well would definitely make an impact to the coastal waters, not only in terms of sedimentation, but also in terms of the biotic community, the living things in the area as well. And if I can just add a little bit, like what Shaq and Mr. Shahroom has highlighted, how Malaysia is actually blessed because we are located at a very strategic place called the Coral Triangle area. And this is actually the world's biodiversity hotspot. And that is something not very small. It is something that is huge. It's huge. And 70% of the marine species can actually be found in the Coral Triangle area, which Malaysia is a part of. So it's going to be a shame, a huge shame, if we don't do more than we ever did to actually protect, this place that is very valuable to everybody in terms of tourism, in terms of the keeping the place as it is, and also Mr. Shahroom mentioned about how there is actually whatever that we do now. You can't see it now. You will be able to see it only in the future, 50 years in the front, 100 years, because the ocean, the forest, they actually have a built-in lag. So whatever that we have today is also from whatever that our parents or our ancestors have done in the past. If they did good, then this is what we are seeing now. If they did bad, this is what also we are seeing now. Yeah.
I have to agree, Ms. Aimi, because when I say there's too much to sacrifice, I think I have to agree with your statement and your answer, because we are actually blessed. Our country is actually blessed to be right on the tropical. We have a tropical weather, and I'm also aware that the sea levels, the sunlight could actually reach the sea levels, our seabed. That is why we have very beautiful corals, and also we have good production of pearls, because the sunlight could actually reach to the seabed of it. So which is giving us so many beautiful creatures like corals, which is maintaining the entire ecosystem below the water down there. So I feel like that's why I say we have too much to sacrifice, and we have to be one of the countries that have been taking proactive steps to overcome this climate change. So I think, but I feel we have a long way to go, because climate change has not been a focused issue that have been addressed in our country yet, I feel. So what do you think about that, Ms. Aimi? Like what we can do as a country to highlight it, because we are in a place that we should be highlighting it, right? But it's not out there yet.
Yeah. I think what is good about younger generation, perhaps our generation or younger ones, they use social media a lot, and I think this is where we can actually put a huge pressure on people who is on the upper level. If we don't put the pressure enough, they would just ignore it. Like what we have seen on the social media these days, there's too many things going on, and the words of the people can actually make an impact. Even if they don't want to do something about it, they actually can see that people know about it, and the people are well versed about an issue, about certain issue, that if they don't want to do something about it, people will not select them, perhaps in the next election, something like this. So yes, putting the pressure is something that I really, really want to highlight, because it's the only way that we can help to change, the policy, the regulations. Posting on social medias, sharing all the important news, devastating news is really, really helpful actually. And I just hope that younger generations, our generations, can actually put a stop to all these damaging activities, so that we can have our marine life, our terrestrial forests to flourish again, and we all can sustainably live with it. Because in the end, we are also the ones who's gonna feel the impact. our livelihood, especially because Malaysia is surrounded by waters. Most of us depends on water resources, local communities especially. And once this ecosystem is damaged and it's gone, it's going to heavily impact the people of our country, which would be even more devastating than it already is. So yeah.
So I have a question, open question over here. So I would like to know more on the major threats that you as an activist are facing it in your particular fields. Like, so maybe Mr. Shahroom could actually share the major threats that the agriculture side of the country is facing. Mr. Shahroom?
Yep.
Yeah.
For agriculture, the major threat will be climate change. Yeah, that will be, because the plants, even the livestock, heavily depends on the parameter that they live in. Okay, the same as human. But for us, if we feel cold, we can go to air conditioning area. But the plants, they don't have any legs. And they cannot just move around. Okay, I'm hot, I will go to somewhere cold. No, they cannot do that. So we have to provide for them. Even for the livestock, we already cage them in an area. So if they feel uncomfortable, they have to live in it, because we don't speak their language. They don't speak to us. If we are capable of speaking to us, then we will feel, oh, no. So the major thing that affect production of agriculture would be climate change. That's why it's an important issue for agriculture area regarding this climate change. So I was hoping there will be somebody that take charge of enforcing the law, because the law is there, but enforcement, like we discussed, the enforcement is not there. They don't think this issue is big enough. That's what I can say. A lot of people talk about climate change, but then there's no action. We complain here, complain there, complain here, complain there. Still, there's no action.
So, Mr. Shahroom, if there is no attention to this, right? So, in let's say 5 years of time or 10 years of time, how does it gonna affect our food supply in future?
If this gonna go on, let me tell you, we will have half or less food production in 10 years' time. Because it's bad. It's really bad. Even for a coral, okay, to replenish themselves, it takes years. Okay, to recover from damage, it takes years. Even for the forest, it takes years. So if we do it now, then we can only feel it 20 years later. But in between the 20 years, we need to suffer of our own consequences of whatever we do. It's an important issue for climate change. But seriously, we really need someone to step up, to really think of this issue as a very important issue, not just something like let those activists do it. No, that's why I really agree with the statement of Ms. Aina saying that these youngsters nowadays, they tend to pressure the higher ups using social media, which does works. So carry on with the plan.
So I think we'll continue doing it.
Yeah. True.
Until we get their attention.
Yes. True.
Okay. I think we've also, platform like this, like what Altruistic Malaysia is doing, is also a good opportunity, because it helps the community, especially Malaysians, to get the informations needed that they couldn't get, elsewhere, or it's hard to get elsewhere. So platform like this is really, really helpful, because not only it enlighten your audience, but also our audience from our side also. So from action from you, from the four of us. Perhaps we have raised, I don't know how many viewers we have tonight, and I'm sure they will be able to help to send a message and to convey the right message to people around them, and this ripple effect is what we want, right?
True.
That's a very good term, the ripple effects, because it keeps affecting the person who's coming next and next and next. Yeah. So I have a question that for both Mr. Shaq and also Miss Aimi about mangrove forest. So we understand that mangrove forest is extremely important because it is the most natural barrier that we have against tsunami or any natural disaster that we have. But due to development and urban development and all this stuff, there is a depletion, a drastic change in the mangrove forest. So how important is mangrove, particularly for coastal areas, Ms. Aimi?
I think it's very important. It's very important for to the community who live nearby the coastal area. It's not just for food for the fish, but actually a place for the fish to live. Without mangrove, without coral, there's no habitat for the fish. Means it's no fish for us to eat. So you need to think about a place for them. And if you don't have, if we destroy the habitat, the species will be gone, and the fish will be gone. We gonna like all the fish that we can consume now in the future, and maybe in another 10 years time, if we still deforest all the mangrove area, we won't enjoy the same fish that we enjoy now, because there's no place for them to live, and that's actually will affect the coral also. And that's if you think of it, we actually live in a huge change. If you break one of chains, it will affect others who waiting in time.
True. I
point of view.
Yeah, and I think one of also the importance of mangroves is also that they actually helps to hold heavy metals level low, because the characteristic of when you see the roots very long like that, they actually helps to hold the sediment there, and there is actually high level of mercury in that area. So without it, all this toxic chemical will be released, hence will affect the water quality. And without it also, like Shaq mentioned earlier, many marine life also use mangrove as their breeding site actually, which is why sometimes you would be able to actually see groupers, small fishes that you would normally find in the ocean. You can actually find it in the mangrove area. I know mangrove is not as popular because some people think that mangrove is a bit smelly because ada lumpur kan, it smells a bit. But we need to actually really highlight the importance of it, and businesses or tourism industry, especially in Perak, in where else, in Langkawi, who already has business around the area, tourism around the area, should actually use this opportunity to send a message and also to highlight how important it is, mangrove to coastal areas. After the tsunami disaster struck in 2006, after that suddenly everybody was talking about we have to replant mangrove, so people tend to appreciate things when it's gone. So we don't want to experience that anymore. Even we have in Malaysia, we actually have lost our turtles, one of the species, the leatherback turtle, penyu belimbing. And people start to appreciate this species only when it's gone. This is nature, but we have to learn from it. We have lost our species, and our habitat is degrading. The coastal area was heavily impacted during the tsunami or during big flood, big storm, and we have to take action and we have to learn from it.
It's very, very good point. I think we need to show example. If if we saw some of big people up there, that showing the bad example, we need to tell them they did something wrong, and we need to keep them pressure to enforce all the law that already there. Make sure they do the job properly, and also protect the environment. And they actually are game changer. If they don't do the regulation, they don't enforce the regulations there. So no point for to have this a government. They need to govern the country. If you don't have proper regulation, proper enforcement, how we gonna set a example for our young children, and they think the ministry doesn't do a proper job. They think they're no use for them to have it, and also that will affect all the community that's depending on the proper governing.
I so badly want to agree with you, Miss Aimi, but I have to mention this, right? Because I have to get the message to the right people. So I'm living in Penang. So we have mangrove forest in Penang. So at the edge of the Penang Bridge, the first Penang Bridge, we have mangrove. Okay, that is fine. It's okay. So, but there is this area over here. If you're very familiar with Batu Kawan, we have a large stadium over here, right, for the F1 track and all that stuff, right, for the motorbike track. So, on the way to the stadium, there's actually a huge land of mangrove swamp. But you have to know that the entire place is gone now because for development purpose. And that it was one of the places that it was hit tsunami back in 2006, because we do have if you're aware, the second bridge starts at Batu Kawan, so that is exactly where the sea area is, and then the entire land is gone, because I've witnessed it by myself. Like, I'm 22 years, I'm living in the same area, and then I've seen the changes where it was a large land of mangrove and then it's gone now. So I feel like it is impossible to replant them, because it's going to take ages for them to regrow and then to, build the ecosystem back again to how it was, right? So it's actually quite disappointing, because just for development, we are sacrificing a natural barrier. So, and we are discussing about climate change right now. So what if we have like tsunami in anytime soon now? We just lost a natural barrier, right? So let's think about that. So what are the steps that we can take to do something about it? Because if it's not now, then when are we going to do about it? You're on mute, Ms. Aimi.
So I think it's something that has to be highlighted so much. If the people on the area can actually be vocal about it, I definitely think the developer, the authority will actually be more mindful, not to be very not in a sense that they will protect the environment, to at a certain length, but if we can actually tell them that we are aware of what is happening and how it is actually impacting our environment negatively, I think the authority will actually take this into consideration. And I think having a subject to in a syllabus in the university or in school regarding restoration or conservation, I think it would definitely helps. It would definitely helps as we really need the younger generations to be involved in it as well. So if we start young from the awareness, and then later at the stage we can have them involved in whatever activities that we have, restoration, replanting, I think it definitely will have an impact, and the future, the younger generation is who's gonna take care of this planet soon, right? So yeah,
because I feel like like I want my generation to live, but I need my generation a place to live. So in due to that, we have to do something about it. So I really hope we could use the platform that we have right now to actually tell the people that you need to listen. You need to listen this. You need to take action on this, right? So I have a question from the viewer, the Facebook viewer, and her name is Chu Wun Sin. So it's an open question. So I think I would like Mr. Shahroom answer first. So do you believe that people's behavior will change in a way that is beneficial or harmful for climate change as a result of the current pandemic?
Definitely.
Mm.
Definitely. Whether it shift to the left or to the right means good, left means bad. It depends on the awareness that instilled by the parents, like what Mr. Shaq said. But we can feel it. Like during this pandemic, and when we add with the climate change issue, it really changed everything. Okay, climate change really changed, especially in agriculture. We have problem with COVID, and then we have a longer issue from the past 5 years on climate change. Means problem after problem. So I don't know about the older generation, but what I can conclude is they are too focused on current wealth that they forgot on future wealth for their children. They're building all this big area, big development for current wealth. When they forgetting when they build and destroy our ecosystem, means the future doesn't have any value anymore to the kids. It means any natural disaster that came in the future, we will just be hit by it. There's no defense mechanism. Everything is destroyed. The natural barrier is destroyed. And then we have this climate change affecting the temperature, affecting the the ozone system. Everything is affected. So for me, since we have this platform, I really want to get somebody that really have the authority to really enforce, to fix this climate change issue. Not simply say fix, to just do something that make it better. A replanting program, because as you know, the one who give authority on development is the government themselves.
Yes.
So we need to point this is the mistakes of the government. We don't have to appoint anybody else, because the one who's giving the authority, the LC, to build something on mangrove area or whatever area that shouldn't be developed is the government. So they are the one responsible actually. Right.
And then we keep complaining about how hot the weather is, or it's raining and limitedly flood and all this stuff, but we're not realizing that it is the consequences of our own actions. We are not in the place to complain, but we are in the place to actually solve it, right? True. And then I think just like how it says, it's gonna take a long way for us to restart back, for them to listen, to take action and all this stuff. So what are your points, Mr. Shaq, on, will it change the people's behavior?
Of course, if you create the awareness about all these changes, all the effect by the climate change to the people, to the human being, to the animal, to the plant, that actually, I hope that will make people think that actually this is not gonna slow down. It will increase. For example, this is what we feel now. What happened? It will double up next year and triple up another year, and they will increase. If you don't have any prevention and you don't have any restoration, you don't have a proper mechanism that slow it down. If you don't do it, it will increase. So prevention is better than find any solution sometimes. Prevention need to be start now. Prevention not just action, but prevention also need to think about your the way your lifestyle is. Prevention start from the way you the way you think, the way you do, the way you know. That's actually start from holistically, start from yourself, from everybody, because what we do, we need to make sure show the good example. For example, just little thing that you do, posting some pictures of that you think is wrong, that happening around your area, and then to the social media, that will increase some people will start thinking, oh, this is something wrong. It's not just what you feel, but actually everybody feel the same. That will increase so much pressure to the politician out there, to the government out there, to do some action, to do, because we are the people, because we are the one who paying our tax and to the government, and government their salary is our tax money. So basically our government work for us. We are the boss. They are our employee and they need to do the job by protecting and governing a proper government. That's, I think, we need to do is come from among ourselves.
So, Miss Aimi, what do you think?
I think it depends on where you're sitting at. So you can actually always educate yourself. This is something that we all have to do ourselves. When you educate yourself, you will actually be able to educate the people around you. And when you are able to send the right message, the right way to these people, they can actually influence the people around them. And this goes back to the ripple effect that we've mentioned earlier. And of course, like Shaq say, Mr. Shahroom have mentioned also, use the power of the social media. Whatever that you have seen, whatever issues that is happening, post it up, share it to people, so that regardless whether it is good thing or a bad thing. If it's a bad thing, we can actually get the attention of the policymaker or whoever that is, on the higher ups. And if it's a good thing, people would want to be included in that thing as well. So in a way, they also want to do it. For example, I go walk by the beach and I start picking up trash, post it on my social media, hashtag, clean ocean, pick up trash as you go, something like that. People would want to be, they want to be seen as doing good, as they're doing good thing. So when social media, if you're using it the right way, we can actually give a positive impact to the environment. And if whoever posts something that is good, that is helping the environment, I would feel that I want to be in that group as well. So I would do the same thing and share it too. So again, people around me who see that will also do that as well. And eventually, at individual level, we are actually helping to protect the environment. So use your social media power correctly, the right way, and influence everyone the right way also, right? Yeah. And also, I think one another important thing is to make scientific results available to everyone without technical words. Conveying the message the right way is also important, so that people don't think that protecting the earth is a very hard work to do. It's too complicated. It's too scientific. I'm not from scientific background. I don't think I can do it. So make it more accessible to people and make it twist it in a fun way also, right? So you don't have to come in a scientific background, to protect the ocean or to help the environment. Use your expertise. For example, if you are social media expertise, use your abilities to attract people's attention to send the right message. And I think it will really, really helps. And if you are, let's say, if you are in a building industry, perhaps you can share more how an industry can actually build sustainably or build without using utilizing so much electricity or air conditioning, right? Which is something that is very crucial in Malaysia. I think air condition. Yeah.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, right, we've been addressing this like ever since we are using the platform as we can. So when we are talking about air conditioning, right, so instead of using CFC, we are suggesting to them hydrocarbon, CFC instead. Maybe it could, it's less impact on the environment. So I think we'll be doing all I can. So, but I think we need to do more. So there's a saying in Malay, right? Sikit-sikit menjadi bukit. So I think it works over here, I guess. So I think if each one of the person from the neighborhood could actually plant something, or try to make one small changes, I think it end up in a collective change. Like, right. So we have come to the end of the discussion. So it's just amazing to have the panelists over here, for sharing those insightfuls. So it's been really knowledgeable and also amazing. It's brilliant. So thank you very much for such a brilliant session just now. So we have come to the end of the forum today. So thank you once again to everyone who is on Facebook and YouTube watching us live, and also to our panel today for your active participation, of course, and also our panels, after address Mr. Shahroom, Mr. Shaq, and also Ms. Aimi for spending your time today and also your knowledge on this topic today, which is extremely important. We, from the side of Futuristic Malaysia, we are extremely honored and pleasure to have you guys over here. So we do hope the viewers and also myself have gained knowledge and also inspired from today's forum. So once again, thank you everyone for watching for our forum today. I am Shamira Nasrin, your moderator today. So this is Hall of Aspire, a place to satisfy your taste for knowledge. Thank you very much.
Is it done?
Yep, it's done.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I think that I had the same thing.
Yeah,
my,
true.
my Wi-Fi down. I thought it just spooky, but actually everybody feel the same.
Yeah, the only is that I can go online because I'm using my mobile data.
But then,
I hope you guys had a great session today. Thank you so much for being with us today. It means a lot.
Thank you so much, Mira and Futuristic Malaysia for inviting us. It's an honor. See you soon, Sean and Mr. Shahroom.
Okay, see you soon.